All right, welcome to another podcast right here from River Church, Netherlands. Today we have a very special guest, my good friend Dr. Dave Martin. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh man, thank you for having me.
Great to spend some time with you today. You're a great blessing this weekend at church here in Amsterdam, and thanks for visiting us.
Always enjoy being at the river. Love what's happening, and as we were talking about, you can feel it in the atmosphere at the river.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
God is up to good things.
Great response too. Many people got saved and made a decision for Jesus. But today we want to really talk about and add some value to people. Maybe you are here watching as a pastor or in ministry or in business, leading an organization, or you aspire to be. Then today, this is the moment to really tune in. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper or your notes on your phone and just write along, because I believe in this next 45 minutes or so, we're going to have some great value that we're going to receive. Because, Dr. Dave, you preach in a lot of churches. You've been all around the world in ministry, but also in business. You've seen, you've been in a lot of places. You've taught NBA, NFL, in that world, corporate world, Marriott, Toshiba. You're very connected in many different spaces in church world, but also in the business world. Can you tell a little bit about how you've rolled into that and how you've become Dr. Dave, basically?
Yeah, well, it's amazing because all the principles that I teach in both worlds are all from the Bible. There's no greater success book than the Bible. And so, when years ago I heard a guy by the name of Zig Ziglar, and I said, man, I don't know what that is he's doing, but I want to do that. And he was what they call a motivational speaker. And I said, man, I want to be a motivational speaker. And as he was sharing and teaching these principles as a church kid, I grew up in church. My dad's a pastor. I kept going, man, I've heard that. That's in the Bible. Oh, wait, I've heard that principle. That's in the Bible.
Familiar.
And every time they would teach something, I would just process it through what I knew from the Bible. And I thought, well, man, all these principles of leadership and are in the Bible. And so I began to study, and I think God just really put it on my heart to see, as I would read the Word, these principles, like I call it hidden manna. This hidden manna in the Word would come out. I'm like, wait, that's a principle. That could be a principle of habits or whatever it may be. And so I began to understand that there's a big difference between the person of Jesus and the principles of Jesus. That the person of Jesus prepares you for heaven, but the principles of Jesus prepare you for earth. And there were ungodly people that were using godly principles and achieving ungodly results, while the church doesn't know the principles, or we miss the principles, and we're not experiencing the blessing and the benefit and the success that we could be because we don't know the principles. And so that's where I've just got a desire to dig out the principles from the Word of God that would help people succeed in life.
Because even from a church perspective, even success might be even a bad word, maybe in the past more than now.
Yeah.
But people almost look down on that. Success, prosperity, all these words are like, oh man, what a terrible thing. Where you talked about it on Sunday as well. That's like, no, God wants you to do well.
Right.
Beloved, I pray you may prosper.
Commit your plans to me, and I'll cause them to succeed, right? I mean, success is a Bible word. I mean, it's all throughout the Bible. So God's like, and that's another thing, most Christians don't have a plan. We pray and hope it all works out, but we have no plan. Yet planning cannot replace praying, and praying cannot replace planning.
That's good.
You're going to need both, right? So how do I commit my plan to him? By praying. I commit my plan to him, but if I don't have a plan, what's he going to cause to succeed? And so all throughout the Bible, and that's what I really try to teach people, planning is scriptural. All throughout the Bible, there's plans for building the battle, or plans for building the temple, plans for bringing an offering, all kind of plans for building the ark. And so there were detailed plans, and I think so often we miss it because we just hope it all works out, and we have no plan.
Especially in the more charismatic Pentecostal world that we live in. Basically, I'm speaking for myself. What I notice a lot as a pastor is that a lot of people, they want to throw the responsibility that the Lord has given us, want to throw it back to him.
Right.
We keep in the prayer.
Yeah.
But God has given you a brain to give him a break, right? So you have personal responsibility. And I think you coach people on that. You teach people and you awaken that in people and in organizations of like, hey, what can you do from a natural perspective and these principles to make something out of your life?
It's easy to blame everybody else, isn't it? I mean, to not take responsibility.
It's my wife's fault.
Yeah, it's my wife. Why am I gaining so much weight? Well, my wife's Italian, and she cooks with pasta, and it's all those carbs, you know. But I could always blame someone else. It's the donut. It's Krispy Kreme donut's fault, right? They're so good when that hot light's flashing. But it's easy to blame someone else. But the word, if you look at the word team, right? They always say there's no I in team, right? And but in the word responsibility, there's a whole lot of I's, and it's all about me. So I wrote a book called The 12 Traits of the Greats, where I just took thousands of hours and I studied great achievers. Well, the first chapter in that book is on responsibility, because I think if you can't take responsibility for where you are and make the changes that you need to make to get you where you're going, you know, I decided to eat the donut. That's why I'm 20 pounds overweight. I decided who I was going to hang out with in high school. I decided to smoke weed instead of whatever it may. I'm the one that made those decisions. So I've got to take responsibility to make my tomorrow different than my today. And so I think I put that as the first chapter in the book, because if you can't take responsibility, your mindset, your imagination, all the other things aren't courage. None of those are going to matter if you can't take responsibility for where you are. The decisions you made yesterday got you to where you are today. So start making some different decisions today if you want tomorrow to be different.
Yeah, and that's also your line that you're kind of known by, right? Like the rest of your life is going to be the best of your life.
Yeah.
But that means that you have to draw a line yourself. It's like, okay, I got to take responsibility for myself to make sure that my tomorrow is better than my today.
You got to decide that.
Yeah.
You know, I decided today is going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Right. That was I took responsibility. Is everything perfect? No. Is this? No. But I've decided today is going to be a good day, no matter what comes my way, and I'm going to take responsibility for that.
You mentioned your book, 12 Traits of the Great.
Yeah.
Of the Greats. I'm interested because you mentioned the first trait. Can you share maybe 2 or 3 more?
Yeah, sure. Mindset.
And maybe share also how you got to this book, because you've hung around some great leaders.
Yeah.
You know, globally.
Yeah.
In the church world, in the business world, you've seen people from John Maxwell to Joe Osteen, people like that.
Yeah.
And you've observed a lot.
And I'm always grateful for the opportunity to be around the greats. But I've studied the greats, and I'm like, what do they know? If someone's doing better than you're doing, I talked about this when I was at the church. If you're not doing as well as you'd like to be doing, it just means there's something you don't know. And man, when I heard that, I went from being a know-it-all to being a learn-it-all. Obviously, there was something I don't know. So if I can find someone that's doing better than I'm doing, well, I want to get around them. I want to do whatever I can. I tell people all the time, if you know someone that does what you do, invest. I will invest whatever I can to get around the best, right? A lot of people just learn from the accessible. I decided to learn from the best, and it's an investment. Sometimes I might, I want to spend some time with John Maxwell. So, you know what? We can have lunch. Can you fly out to California and meet me? I can. I sure can. And I'll jump on the plane and I'll get a plane flight. And it costs me to make that happen. But to be around that, the key to thinking big is exposure. So one of the things one of the traits is mindset. And the key to thinking big is exposure. If you've never seen it or been exposed to it, you don't know it's there. A simple example would be I fly all the time. So I'm just happy to be on the airplane. I grew up a poor kid in Mississippi and the States. I never thought I'd even be flying anywhere. I never flew anywhere growing up. And then I started getting to fly a little bit. And I mean, I'd be in coach, walk past first class. And I never really thought anything about it. I was just happy to be on the plane. And one day they had messed up my flights, had to reroute me and apologized. And they said, Mr. Martin, we're going to give you a first class seat. They put me in first class.
For life.
I was fine sitting in coach. I was, until they put me in that first class seat, right? Now my mind has been exposed. And here's what I learned that day. When your heart decides a destination, your mind will begin to design a map to get you there. So now my heart has decided, you know what? I think first class might be better for me. Next flight, they got me back in coach again. It was horrible. I never knew how miserable it was back then. I was fine until I'm like, this is like purgatory. I'm just in the limbo back here. But I said, man, I want to, now my heart's decided, I want to be in first class. So now my mind goes to work. Okay, how am I going to get up there? Mm-hmm. Well, if you only fly this airline, pretty soon you'll earn some status, and then they give you free upgrades. You could get a credit card with this airline, and then when you spend money on it, you get points, and you could use those points for some upgrades. Mm-hmm. Well, you could figure out how to make more money and then just buy a first class ticket. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get there. And so my mind's figured that out, but I didn't know until I was exposed.
Yeah.
And so I think it's so important that we continue to expose ourselves to greater things and to keep stretching. Once your mind is stretched with a new idea, I think it was Oliver Wendell Holmes that made this statement. Once your mind is stretched with a new idea, it will never go back to its original dimension, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of, you run the 4-minute mile, Roger Bannister? Roger Bannister. He's the first human being to ever run a mile in under 4 minutes.
Yes.
Right?
And he broke it.
Yeah, never been done before. I think it was 1954. Roger Bannister runs a mile in under 4 minutes. No one had ever done that before. It wasn't possible. People can't run that fast. And no one thought it was possible until 1954 when Roger Bannister ran a mile in under 4 minutes. The next year, 1955, 30 people ran a mile in under 4 minutes. The next year, 1956, 100 people ran a mile. Today, you can go to a high school and see people do it. And he said, well, what changed? What changed in 1954? Did the way we run change? Did our muscles change? What changed? Our thinking changed. It wasn't a time barrier that was broken that day. It was a mind barrier that was broken that day. People thought, well, I didn't think it was possible, but now I see it is possible. And so if he could do it, why can't I do it? And when you get that kind of mindset, it changes everything. That's one of the biggest things I think. I know I have to work on all the time. Every day I'm working on my thinking, working on my mindset. I got to stay positive. I told him the other day, I said, listen, I was born a pessimist. Even my blood type is B negative. Right? so I got to work at being positive because I'm naturally negative. And so I think so much of the Bible talks a lot about our mindset, renewing our mind. As a person thinks, so will they be. And so I think there's so much to understanding of that transformation of
even
the way.
Faith, right? Like operating in faith. Like how can you pray in faith and expect a positive result if you just, like the Israelites that died in the desert, they're like, well, it's not possible.
Yeah.
The giants are too big. The city walls are too thick. We're going to not make it. And then actually God told them, as you have spoken out of your mouth, so will it be for you.
Right.
So, and that's the sad state of many even believers, born again believers and great Christians.
Right.
That don't obtain the promises of God because small thinking, really.
Well, you can pray for something. Say, I'm praying for restoration in my marriage, right? And I take 10 minutes and just really pray hard, right? But the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of that day, all I'm thinking is, she's never going to change. This marriage is never going to work out. And all I'm thinking is negative. I would say prayer is important, but maybe my thinking may be even more powerful than my prayer, right? Because 23 hours and 50 minutes, I'm thinking opposite of what I just prayed for the 10 minutes. Yeah. So our thinking is, what is Ephesians 3:20, he'll do above anything you could think, super abundantly. I like one version says super abundantly. I just like that word, super abundantly. But God is a God of increase. I mean, the very first command he gave humans was be fruitful and multiply. Multiply means to increase. And so if something's not increasing, I don't think God's happy, right? God wants to see increase in our lives. And so these principles are there to help us expand our thinking to see. I mean, my goodness, we serve the creator of the universe. What a great God. Why wouldn't we think bigger and dream bigger and believe bigger than we do right now? Yeah.
So you talked about exposure, you talked about responsibility. So exposure to great people, right? You were talking, you started about that. But then when you exposed yourself to great leaders, visionaries,
Yeah.
people that build great organizations. What did you see? What were some traits you saw that are common denominators?
Yeah. One of the traits I put in there is courage. And people say, why did you put that trait in there? Because, I think to do anything great, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. And we would call it faith, right? But I saw these people that have achieved great things were willing to take a risk, right? And willing to, what we would say is step out in faith and do something. And so I saw among great achievers, whether it was on the baseball field or the battlefield, they were willing to take a risk. You never had accomplished anything great. Well, what if I fail? Well, great. You'll considered one of the greats because the greats had the most failures. The most successful people usually have the most failures. If you've never made a mistake, you probably never made anything, right? And so I put courage. I believe courage is one of the big things. I think so many people. I knew a guy, smart guy, and had brilliant ideas. But he that they all say, ready, aim, fire, right? And he was like, ready, aim. I'm like, just pull the trigger. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm like, because you're afraid to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? Courage to step out and take the leap, right? And so I'm like, ready, fire. Oh, I missed. Okay, re-aim. All right, shoot again. Just keep shooting. We're going to get there, right? Failure is, I say failure is fertilizer, right? It's just failure. If you learn to fail forward and to learn from those failures, really what sparked my journey of personal growth and was a guy by the name of Sir Edmund Hillary. I don't know if you ever heard of him. First man to ever summit Mount Everest, right? And I always thought, wow, this is amazing. He's the first one to make it to the top of Mount Everest. He just got up one morning and says, okay, let's go. I'm going to do it. And he climbed to the top. But as I read the story, that wasn't quite how it happened. He didn't make it the first time he tried. But he was smart enough to go, okay, there's other people who have tried. I wonder what they've learned. So he went and learned from some other people. That's why they say there's no shortcut to success. I don't believe that. I think a good mentor is your shortcut to success. If I can learn from your mistakes, right? You've been pastoring longer than I have. So obviously you know some things I probably don't know. So I'm like, if I can learn from your mistakes, it'll save me from having to make the same mistakes. So that's why God puts mentors, people in your life. I call one of my mentors, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? He said, I wouldn't do that.
It's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah. He's like, I wouldn't do that. I go, why? I think it's a good idea. He said, so did I. Right? He'd already done it. Yeah. He just saved me 3 months of work, $50,000 of investment in something. So mentorship became my shortcut, right, to success. And so I'm always trying to learn and grow. So Sir Edmund Hillary finds out, well, this didn't work, but, I need to do this. I need to do that. Tries again, doesn't make it. Oh, well, I need to do a little more training physically. Oh, I need this piece of equipment. And so failure 2, 3 times. And I love this because, like I said, all these great principles are in the Bible. Sir Edmund Hillary, you might have heard this somewhere in the Bible. He walks out and he looks at Mount Everest and he says to his mountain, there's something about that in the Bible, I think, speaking to your mountain. And he looked at Mount Everest. He said, I will come again and conquer you, because as a mountain, you cannot grow, but as a human, I can. And what a powerful, powerful statement that really sparked in me the desire for wisdom and the desire for personal growth. Growth is not automatic, right? Talk about responsibility. Growth is your responsibility. The reason first grade, you have first grade here, grade 1, what do you call it? Grade 1, yeah. The reason grade 1 desks are so small is because you're not supposed to be sitting in them when you're 30. You're supposed to grow. And in the same in life, we're to grow and to develop and to become more. That's why the Bible tells us wisdom's more valuable than silver, more profitable than gold, more precious than rubies. And so when you understand that, you look for ways to grow. And that really just sparked my journey to continue to grow.
What would you tell people? Because what we see here I think it's a Dutch thing, to be honest, but that people, when you talk about growth and developing yourself and everything like that, people easily feel condemned in the sense of like, oh man, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing good enough. Maybe especially when they fail. What would you tell people that battle with these mindsets of let me just not even try because I'll just be confronted with I'm not good enough.
Right. Or what we see even in the States some too is as other people try to keep everyone at the same level.
Crab mentality.
Yeah. Let's just pull you back down to this. Let's not try. Let's all stay the same. That's the best. And so there's no desire. But as a believer, how could you live with that kind of lifestyle? That's why that transforming and renewing of our mind is so vital and important, because that's not a God mindset.
No.
Right.
No.
And so I would say, there's three ways to see yourself. I talked about this, I think, this week, and three ways to see yourself. You can see yourself the way other people see you, which may be good, may not be good, but what other people think about you is none of your business, right? Most people go through their life always worried about what everyone else thinks about them all the time. Eleanor Roosevelt said it this way. She said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." So quit going through your whole life worrying about what everyone else thinks about me. The second way to see yourself is how you see yourself, which would be confidence. And we all want to have a good confidence. We all want to have a good self-esteem, but things happen. People say things to us, do things to us that affect our self-esteem. So even our own confidence, which I think is important, is really, it's pretty fragile. My first job was at a pet store, and people kept coming in asking how much I was. That's damaging, right? That's hurtful.
Sorry for laughing.
Yeah, it's hurtful to
still
yourself.
Traumatized by it.
A little bit. Yeah. One time in high school, this girl called me and she said, "Hey, come over to my house. Nobody's home." I went over to her house.
Nobody was home.
Nobody was home. I just kept knocking. That's hurtful. That's damaging. So I couldn't base my life on my own, even the way I saw myself. But as believers, we have a third way to see ourselves, and that's to see ourselves the way God sees us. And it moves us beyond confidence to a place of Godfidence, of not just knowing who I am, but knowing whose I am. And when you realize who created you, you are a masterpiece of the greatest creator of all. How could you not? It's like the Numbers 13, right? The spies come back and like, we look like grasshoppers.
Yes. Yeah.
Even they think we look like grasshoppers. My goodness. And then these two faith spies. We call them the faith spies, right? Joshua and Caleb. Everyone knows Joshua and Caleb, but you can't name any of those 10 other spies. Yep, can't think of one, can you? 'Cause nobody remembers losers. But they, we always consider they were all faith spies. All 12 of them were faith spies. Just 2 of them had faith in God, and 10 of them had faith in the giants. Right? It's where you put your faith, and it's like worry. Worry is amazing to me. It's so funny to me because all worry is just bad use of your imagination, right? It's just faith backwards. So you have a choice when something you can use your imagination, which is one of the traits of the greats, is to see something in the future by faith, or you can use worry, which and have you ever worried about something that didn't happen?
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
And you still got the headache because your blood pressure went up, your stomach still hurt. Even though it didn't happen, the thing is it happened to you because your physiology, your body went through all the same processes as if it really did happen. So now the bad news is if it really does happen, you got to go through it twice. That's why the Bible says don't worry about tomorrow, right? Tomorrow will take care of itself. And so often we just worry, we worry. What if it never even happens? With the same amount of energy, I could just imagine, what if it all goes right? And so, again, it's continually working on our thinking, working on our mindset, and developing that confidence of knowing who I am in Christ.
Yeah, so good. So important. So, okay, so we talked about exposure. We're talking about some traits of great leaders, which this can apply to anyone, even if people are not in leadership yet. Or aspiring to be in leadership, this applies to anyone.
Well, we were talking about your imagination, right? That's something we don't talk about a whole lot, but yet God's the one that gave us that. And it said, well, I don't know, imagination.
That's a little new agey.
Good new age. Yeah, maybe Walt Disney, right? Maybe Walt Disney came with that imagination, visualization.
Never read Genesis 1?
Yeah, exactly. Or what about Abraham? You're going to have children, and your children will have children. I don't see that happening. I'm 100 years old. My wife's 90. What does God say? Abraham, come out of your tent. Come out here. Look over the sky. See all those stars? Now, as numerous as the stars in the sky, that will be the generations that come after you. And why did he do that? He wanted them to imagine. He wanted them to get a mental picture of what the future looked like.
Yeah.
David, whoever kills the giant, going to get his bills paid off.
No taxes.
No more taxes.
Which that would be huge in Holland.
Right. And you get to marry the king's daughter.
I don't know what she looked like.
I don't know, but maybe he did. Maybe David did it. And, but what did
maybe
he
all the
say?
others were like, yeah, no, nothing. It wasn't the giant. It was more like.
we're not afraid of the giant, but I don't want to get stuck with her.
Stuck with Bridezilla over there.
But David said, "Could you repeat it?" Remember, he goes back. He says, "Could you tell me one more time? What happens if I kill the giant?" Why did he want him to repeat it? I think he started getting a picture, like you don't have to pay all your bills will be paid off. He just saw that big red paid in full stamp on all of his bills. He saw his taxes, zero, no more taxes, and you get to marry the king's daughter. And he's like, "Man, I get the money and the honey, right? I'll fight a giant." Why? He got a picture of his future. Years ago, I created a dream wall in my house. A vision board, whatever you call it, something has to be seeable before it's believable before it's achievable. And so I created this wall, and all I put on the wall was pictures of things I wanted in my future. Nothing I didn't want, only things I did want. So I wanted to see it. I wanted to get a picture of it in my imagination. So I take time every day to meditate on those things, right? And he said, "Well, I don't even know where I'd start." Well, what I put up there, I didn't know where to start either. Or people say, "I just have a bad imagination. I don't know how to imagine." So that's why this helps, right? I always wanted to take my family on a Disney cruise. And, they have the cruise line now, and I'm a big Disney fan and lived in Orlando for years. And so I got a picture. I got the brochure, and I cut a picture of the boat out, and I put it up on the wall. One day, I'm going to take my family on that Disney cruise. We're going to go on that. I wanted to build a little podcast studio like we have. And so I'm like, well, what kind of microphone do I need? What kind of cameras do I need to get? And so I cut pictures of all of them out. And I took a picture of a little studio. And I'm like, that one day I'm going to have that. And I'm putting all kind of stuff up there. Oh, I wanted to give $100,000 to my church. And so I wrote a check to my church. This is back in the day when you wrote checks. And I wrote a check for $100,000 and I put it up on the wall. One day, I wrote void on the check because in case my pastor came.
Snatch it off the wall.
Yeah, in case he saw it and tried to get it before I was ready. But I had pictures. Now that first dream wall, it's been years now. I took all that down. Well, the Get Motivated tour that we were talking about earlier, that was on my dream wall for years, almost 15 years. A picture of this big arena where this business conference I went to, and I'm like, I want to speak at a conference like that. It was 15 years before it actually came to pass, but I had something that has to be seeable, and I kept seeing it. One day, I kept the picture in front of me, and so often that's where we miss it with our mindset.
Yeah.
And so I found that the greats had this ability to see into the future where they were going.
Yeah, you even see God doing that in Genesis 1, where the earth was dark and full of voidness, really. And then the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. But then God spoke, and he said, "Let there be light, let there be this, let there be..." God already had seen it all, and then he spoke it out. And then actually the Spirit of God began to move, and creation happened.
Yeah.
And we're made in the image of God. So when people say, "Oh, it's like spiritualism the wrong way or something," no. We're made to function like our Heavenly Father functions. Yeah. And it's nothing weird or spooky about it. It's just, who gave us imagination?
Right.
It's the enemy who perverted it.
Right.
Right. So, but then you get born again, and you get, the mind of Christ, and then you can see the future that God has for you in a way. Because Jesus even said about the Holy Spirit, he will show you things to come. Yeah. Like with you, he showed you 15 years before you ever spoke at that conference, which you did for 8 years, like in this business world, speaking to people, on biblical principles and leading people to the Lord from that secular stage, basically.
Yeah. And how many times did I have a chance to give up? It's never going to 15
where
years.
It looked like that's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. I just tell you the story. I met the owner, right? He heard me speak, and I'm like, "This is it." And he's like, "Yeah, good
not
job."
That great.
And walked out. Right. And then a few years later, he hears me again. Nothing. Right. And so, and a lot of times we think We have our plan of how it's going to happen. And it happened a completely different way than I ever dreamed it would happen. A couple that I meet in a back room that is making me some tea. I'm like, that's why it's always important who you're nice to, right? You know, I always say it this way, be nice to the chauffeur. He may be your only ride to the palace. You just never know who's going to open that door, that opportunity for you.
Yeah.
And
plus
so,
you needed maybe more time to cook as well, where you
Right.
you might not have been as developed and ready for
100%.
that stage, because sometimes people think, I should be further, but really you are where you are because of where you are.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're knocking doors down. And a lot of times, I'm a go-getter, right? But wisdom beats hustle any day. And I'm into working hard. I'm not against that, but I'm telling you, when you rely on God's wisdom, and I've learned throughout my life to not kick the doors in anymore. Sometimes maybe God's kept that door closed for a reason or for a season or whatever, but I've learned to follow the path of favor. That's how I always say it. How do I know I just follow where the path is. Well, there it looks like favor's that way, so I guess I'll go this way right now. And I see the favor moving that way. I just follow the path, and it's been amazing. I wrote a book, my first book that I wrote called The Force of Favor.
Wow.
And all about.
I mean, you're like a billboard of favor. Like,
I mean, we could talk for hours and hours just of looking at God's favor in our life. And it's like, how in the world did I get here? Well, you can't explain it except favor, right? Except God was shining his face
and good looks
on me. Well, yeah, that's just, of course. I mean, that's just
a given. Yeah.
That's favor, right? Yeah. But I mean, here's a crazy story. So I go to a baseball game, me and my son. And listen, I've learned this a long time ago. Well, first we go to this baseball game, professional baseball game, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we get there. Last minute, we get tickets. We're in the third level. We're way up high, and so we're sitting there watching the game. And I see these seats right down close by the third base dugout, and I'm like 2-3 rows back. I'm like, that's where we need to be sitting, son. I'm like, we need to pray for favor. We need to know the kind of people that have those seats, right? And so we're just kind of laughing about it. Well, the second inning of the game, a guy taps me on the shoulder. And I turn around, he's like, hi, my name's Steve. I work with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He said, the owner happens to be here tonight and had a couple extra seats. He told me to come up here and see if I could find some people that would like to sit with him. Would you like to sit with the owner?
Let's go.
I thought, I would love to sit with the owner. And so he takes us down to the exact seats that we had just been pointing at, saying, man, we need to know those people. Now, people say, well, you're a preacher, of course. That's why that kind of stuff. They had no idea.
Who you are.
No, we're just, me and my little boy are sitting there. And now we're sitting with the owner of the team. So we're talking for a few minutes. And he says, anything they want, put it on my bill. And his wife turns around and looks at me. She goes, are you a believer? I said, well, matter of fact, I am a believer. She goes, I knew it. I could just sense it. I'm going to thank God, right? And she said, we're believers too. We're Messianic believers. We're Messianic. And I'm like, well, that's amazing. So we get talking, and I found out they own this hotel and spa in Jerusalem. And I said, I've got a good friend who pastors in Jerusalem. They go, what church? And I said, well, it's called King... oh my gosh.
Such a good friend.
Yeah. Wayne Hilston is his name. And what is the name? King of something. Anyway, they said, oh my goodness, they're our best friends. I said, you got to be kidding me. She goes, this is God. So she's like, sit by my husband. She goes, she takes a picture of us, sends it to Wayne. They're like, oh my goodness, how in the world did these two end up? So there's these two other seats right behind home plate. And his wife said, you need to go sit there. You ever sit right there? I mean, that's like the best seat. So we sit there, and I'm talking to the guy sitting next to me, and his little boy, and our boys start talking. Well, I find out his dad used to own the Diamondbacks. He sold the team, and when they did, they got those 4 seats for life. It's part of the deal. So I said, well, we just bought a place here in town. And he goes, well, we need to get together. You're new in town. We'll have lunch. And I'm like, sounds great. And obviously you don't have enough friends because you had 2 empty seats today. So maybe he goes, we'll get the kids together. I'm like, yeah, maybe we'll all come to a game.
Invite me anytime.
Yeah, we exchange numbers. Okay. Long story short, we go, I call my pastor I'm talking to my pastor the next day. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. We go to the Arizona Diamondbacks game. We're in the third level. We end up with the owner. The owner introduces us to this other guy who used to own it. We exchanged numbers, and I'm telling the whole story. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, what's the name of the guy you just said that used to own the Diamondbacks? I told him. He said, we have a campus right downtown. He said, we don't have good parking. Parking is really bad. And there's a parking garage across the street. We've been trying to get a hold of the owner of that parking garage for almost 2 years, and we're getting no response. He said, that guy you just met is the owner of that parking garage, the guy that just gave you his number. Wow. I said, are you kidding me? So I texted him. I said, hey, do you own the parking garage? I said, this is Dave. We met last night. You own the parking garage? He goes, yeah. I said, man, my church is right across the street. So funny. I don't think this is just a coincidence. They've been trying to get a hold of you. He said, really? I said, yeah, they want to rent that parking garage on Sundays for the church. He said, oh, you don't have to worry about that. We don't use it on Sundays. First of the week, I'll draw up a contract, and it's free for them to use anytime they want. This whole time, I thought God just loved me, was blessing me, showing me favor.
That too.
And the whole time, he was just trying to get parking for his house, right? And I learned that day, when God blesses you, he's got a whole lot more than you in mind. This whole time I thought he was just blessing me, but all he was doing was getting parking for his house. And of course, I enjoyed the blessing along the way. But all those things God is bringing, there's no such thing as coincidence. God causes things to coincide, and he grants us favor. But when you walk with an expectation, right? Whatever you recognize, you become thankful for. Whatever you're thankful for increases in your life. So I've learned the law of recognition years ago. I'm always recognizing that little things, favor, front parking spot, favor. Someone at the grocery store had one thing, they got a bunch of stuff. Go in front of me, favor. But I recognize the little things, and now I see it expand into the bigger things, where it's the owner of a Major League Baseball team becomes a good friend of mine. And to this day, we're still good friends. So you just never know how God's going to bless you.
Tell me about, because favor will open the door, but wisdom keeps the door open, right?
Yeah.
And some people, they have the favor to get the door open, but they lack the wisdom to keep the door open. Your church is called Wisdom City Church in Detroit. Tell me a little bit about wisdom that you've learned over the years that keeps that door of favor open, and also wisdom that brings success.
Yeah, the Bible tells us it's the principal thing. It's the most important thing you can have. And so much of it is like knowing what to do next. Wisdom is the difference between seasons. And so it's applying God's word to your life, or to the principles to your life. And so God opens those doors. There's we hear about IQ and EQ. Well, there's RQ and SQ, relational intelligence and social intelligence. And you'll find a lot of times someone comes in with great social intelligence. They can walk in a room and light it up. They're talking to everyone, but they don't get past the main room. They don't get by to the back room because they don't have the relational intelligence, the wisdom to take it beyond just a moment, right? But how to take it to a relationship. And so that's what has produced a lot of favor in my life is the wisdom to know how to discern the moment, how to discern a moment when there is opportunity or there is something in front of us. And I think if we could get that, I mean, again, we know how valuable it is. It's the most important thing you can have, but it's so often what to do next. And we get these opportunities, or we get, I say favor. It doesn't take a lot of people liking you. It just takes the right people liking you. So God puts me in the spot, but now wisdom tells me how to develop my communication skills, how to when I meet someone, I'm working on a book right now called Connect the Dots, right? We collect dots in order to connect dots. So have you ever played Connect the Dots, where you draw from this dot to that dot, and pretty soon you got all these dots, but once you connect them all together, they form this picture. And it's the same thing in our life. I'm collecting dots. I'm collecting relationships all the time. In those relationships, some of them are for me, some of them maybe I'm like, you know what, Ben, I got a guy, you need to meet this guy. And all of a sudden I've connected two dots. It's all part of the thing. So I'm always looking for ways either to connect, collect, and put them together. But God gives us the wisdom to do that and the favor to collect those. And now all of a sudden this picture of my life begins to come together. And it's understanding the value of that networking that God allows us to do, where that's where the wisdom comes in. So God can put me in front of the person, but unless I have the wisdom of knowing how to connect that with what's the time, what's the season, is this for now, is this for later, is this for me, is this for you? And when I have the wisdom to put that, that's how the favor and the wisdom work together.
Yeah, because some people, you've probably seen it too, that you can't take everybody into every room, because some people are just not ready to meet these people. What would you say are some keys that people can learn and develop to get into these worlds, into these rooms? Because people have it potentially, but they're not walking in it yet because they haven't developed this potential yet. Yeah,
you get ahead of time.
Yeah,
you push yourself into a room. That happened to me years ago. A mentor of mine they called to have him come and speak at this event, and he couldn't do it. And I said, and so I'm talking to the guy. I did all this booking and scheduling. So I'm like, yeah, he's not available. I said, but he's trained me. I'm available for that date. He goes, really? I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I talked to my mentor. I said, hey, you weren't available. I told him I'm available. He goes, oh no, you're not ready for that. I go, oh, I'm ready. I'm ready for that. He goes, no. And in my immaturity, my lack of wisdom, I'm thinking, he's just trying to hold me back. He don't want me to get ahead of him. He knows, he sees the,
the golden boy.
Yeah. And so, you know what? I in my lack of wisdom, I pushed forward when I should have listened. That's why God gives you mentors and people in your life. And I pushed forward. I said, I'm going to do it anyway. And I went and I did it, and it was horrible. I flopped. I wasn't ready. And because I wasn't ready, that door never opened back up again. Mm-hmm. And so if you get somewhere ahead of time, you get somewhere too early, it's just like a dinner reservation, right? If you get there too early, you don't get your seat yet. You got to wait until the right time. And it's the same thing with wisdom tells us it's not the right time. And it's not time to push those. So those keys I've learned is just waiting, developing, continue to develop myself. So when the time does come, what is success is where preparation meets opportunity, right? Opportunities have come, but I'm not prepared. But I want to be prepared when the opportunity comes. So now when the opportunity and the preparedness meet, now I have success. But that's important that you're not, that you're prepared when the opportunity comes, not that you have the opportunity, but you're not prepared. And so that's why I tell people continue to grow, continue to develop. I want to learn something every single day. If tomorrow's going to be different than today, I got to learn something today. And so I keep developing so that I'm ready when the opportunity comes. And that's what wisdom says.
Yeah, and developing, you mean, okay, I'm exposing myself to people that are ahead of where I am.
100%.
Also like reading books, biographies.
I was working with a small business guy. He's a painter. Yeah. Right? One small truck, just getting started. Had one guy that would work with him. But man, he had a dream. He's like, I see like 3 crews and vans with my logo on the side. And I said, well, is there anybody else who's ever done that? Oh, yeah. I go, well, then call them. Call them. Tell them you want to take them to dinner. Tell them you want to take them to lunch. I'll pay for your lunch. Could I get an hour with you? Find someone who's already there. Yeah. And so he they're not going to meet. I go, just, you don't know, right? Until you ask. And so he called this big painting company, big painting crew. He was doing jobs of 2,000, 5,000. And so he meets with this guy. Man, he had a great lunch. He learned some things. All of a sudden, now he's getting jobs that were paying 10 to 20,000. And he met with them again. This guy had 10 different crews, and now he had Orlando and Tampa, and he had one down. I mean, he's building this business. The guy kept learning, kept growing, and the guy was very open. Most people are open to share. Most people, I love to share what I know. When someone's hungry to grow, right? What do they say? The teacher shows up when the student arrives, the teacher shows up. And so I think it's so important that everyone has a mentor, someone they're learning from, and a protege, someone they're passing to. And both those relationships are important. You can't just hold on to all of it. You got to bring someone up with you. And now today, the guy, he told me just the other day, they just signed for a job where he brought all of his crews together. It's going to take him about 8 months, but it's an $800,000 paint job.
That's a pretty good paint job.
Not a bad paint job. But if he would have never exposed himself and connected with someone that was doing, so there's always someone that's doing better than you're doing at what you're doing. So how do I find that person? How do I connect with them? Do I have to buy them lunch? Do I have to give them a gift? Someone did something the other day that they wanted some time with John Maxwell. I thought this was brilliant. They sent him a shoe, just one shoe. And they said, hey, if you want the other one, give me a call. I just need 15 minutes of your time.
What?
John's like, how do I not? This was the most brilliant idea I've ever seen. And I want that other shoe. And he goes, this is a nice pair of shoes. And he called the guy 15 minutes, ended up turning into an hour call. Yeah. And he got the other shoe, and that guy got what he wanted. I mean, how you find
That's
a way.
the cheapest pair of shoes ever.
Right.
It's a great investment.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to get out of the people pile.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You just get buried. You're just like everybody else. I'm always looking for ways to get out of the people pile.
You've to close, because so you got to run actually to the airport, but you've taught a lot of organizations as well and teams, even high-end sports teams and everything. What would you say are some characteristics of great teams and like strong cultures, building strong organizations? Yeah.
I think culture is something that is got to be micromanaged. So when you decide the culture you want, it's something that you got to repeat it over and over again. Communication, it's going to be the vital thing to building a strong culture. And that's communicating what the culture is. You decide as the leader, here's what our culture is going to be. Now we're going to create this culture. Mm-hmm. And how do I do it? Well, one of the ways, I repeat it, when you get sick and tired of hearing something, you're just then starting to get it. Mm. You think of, here's a global one. I can think of a million of them in the States that you may not know, but just do it. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Nike,
yeah. Right? How long have they been saying just do it? Like 30-something years they've been saying that. They haven't quit saying it. Well, everyone's probably old. Everyone's probably tired of that. No, they keep saying it because we're just starting to get it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a vital key to building a strong culture is the communication of what the culture is. And then you're going to have to keep going back and looking, all right, and if it just gets off just a little bit, because it's real easy to put it on autopilot, right? And it just a little bit of wind gets off course just a little bit. You got to go back. All right, pull it back in. So it's watching it is vital. Unity in that culture is going to be key, is getting everyone on board with the culture. Mm-hmm. And if someone can't get on board with the culture, then they can't be on the team, right? We've seen a lot of great athletes lose their position on a team because of a wrong attitude, or they couldn't get on board with where the culture is. If you're not going with the culture, then you're going to find a different team. And so I think a lot of those are vital and important to developing that culture. But it's the leader knowing what that culture is, and then passing that culture, continue to pass that
setting it
down.
strong and not being afraid to stand for it.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. We're out of time, but I want to thank you for really pouring out this weekend and today as well, and being here and giving it your all and just being a blessing here. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming all this way.
Always good to be with you.
All the way from Detroit to Amsterdam.
Detroit. Yeah. It's only 1 degree different. So so we're doing good.
It's cold all around. Yeah. I appreciate you, and many blessings on the rest. Any jokes to close us out?
Any jokes? I don't like jokes.
No, you don't like jokes. You're a very serious person.
Very serious. No laughter.
No.
We're Germans. There you go.
So thanks for tuning in, watching this broadcast. Every Thursday, 3 p.m., we go live. If you don't know who we are, check out our website, riverministries.nl. If you're not a partner yet, you feel free to partner with us. We're doing a lot of things all across the Netherlands, all across really Europe, and different nations of the world as well. and it's bearing much fruit. So check out our website, riverministries.nl. And thanks for tuning in today. Great to have you with us. God bless.